Occam's tragic flaws that he's a joiner, Kionians vomit glitter, and Kelric possesses a biting wit. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Huskin. Today we're doing a review of Star Trek Starfleet Academy, Episode 5 of Season 1, of course, series Acclimation Mill, written by Kirsten Beyer and Tawny Newsome, directed by Larry Tang. You guys, let's just cut to the chase. We have a very special guest. You know her as Beckett Mariner. She's also writer and co-producer of this beautiful, fantastic, and groundbreaking show. It is Tawny Newsome. How are you today, Tawny?
Hello, I'm so thrilled. I'm just thrilled. I'm so excited.
Can I just start this off, Cirroc, before you even say anything, because I'm sure you got a ton to say, but the fans have way more to say, and I'm speaking on behalf of all the fans when I say to the both of you from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for what you have given to us. This was a gift to the fans. I know it's probably been a lot of hard work and a lot of stress, but on behalf of all the fans, truly thank you for doing it. Thank you for coming up with it. Thank you for putting it together. And thank you for hitting it out of the park for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
That's amazing. I just wanted to do the Sisko's proud, man. It's just been on my mind ever since I joined the writer's room. I was like, there's a vacuum right now that we need to fill. There's a hole and we needed to fill it. And so I just wanted to do my part to, fill it up a little bit.
You were part of that filling of the vacuum by just being in the writer's room yourself.
I did my damnedest. Oh my gosh. I was banging on a table every other day, yapping about Deep Space Nine, recommending episodes for people to watch, referencing shit they did. So it was a lot of me just reminding our incredible room about what I consider to be the greatest Trek series ever made. So that was my kind of singular focus. And I'm sorry for how annoying I was, but it was all worth it. We got Jake Sisko back. I mean,
but also not sorry.
Well, I'm humbled, and I want to say, Tawny, you're so amazing. Thank you, because this is your brainchild, and this is a result of your advocacy. And this wouldn't have happened if you didn't persist and insist and use your voice to highlight what Captain Sisko meant to Star Trek. And thank you for that, because it's been long overdue. We've went decades now without, feeling like Sisko has been recognized properly in the franchise. Almost kind of looked the other way, not mentioned, passed over, but certain themes might be talked about, like changelings, or just hinting at it, but not really addressing it directly. And kudos to you for, they say speaking truth to power, but that's actually really speaking up and speaking the truth and insisting that something be said when it needs to be said. So thank you for that. I want to ask you, what did Deep Space Nine mean to you to want to even celebrate what Avery did?
I mean, so much. It is forever my favorite Trek. Largely because of all of your performances. I think it has some of the most impressive acting across the franchise. I think the storytelling is so beautifully complex that even when I was very young, I was being introduced to, this is all Star Trek, but this show in particular really introduced me to a lot of complex themes and ideas. I'll get to Ben Sisko, but one of the biggest ones was just seeing how the women on the show were handled, how they were written for often. For the 90s, to see a character like Kira Nerys, to see a character like Jadzia, and to see the types of scenes they were allowed to have, the types of leadership positions they were put in, to see them be kind of flippant and funny, even to see like the family structure between Quark and Nog and Rom, like even when it was silly, it was just so wonderfully rich, and the show encapsulated so many different tones and genres and wild swings and campy moments and deadly serious moments. Like how on earth do you have Duet and Move Along Home? How does one series have both of those episodes? But it does
in the first season.
In the first season, bananas. And I love that shit because I think it makes, I think the Move Along Homes make the duets even sweeter and more poignant. And then I think it allows space. I think the duets allow space for the Move Along Homes to be silly and wild. And that's very much who I am as an artist. I want space for both of those things too. So I don't know if it's chicken or the egg. I don't know if I was always kind of coded in the same way this series is, but or if it's the reason I'm that way. But Ben and Jake Sisko were also a huge part of that. Seeing Black fatherhood, Black leadership, family. It was just really important, even kind of before I understood how important it was for me.
Yeah, and that speaks that I'm just sorry to cut you off, Ryan, but it reminds me of the complexity of who I've come to know you as. And for those people that don't know Tawny, she's so dynamic and so amazing as a human being. And one of the things that I love about her is that she's so smart, funny, and just amazing at everything you do. And I watch you do stand-up. I watch you do improv. I've watched you host podcasts. I've seen you do Lower Decks, which you were fantastic on. And now to see you step in the role as a writer and being a voice in the writer's room and working behind the scenes to make sure that our voices are heard. I want to compliment you for that. And it just speaks to what you're saying. You like the complex themes. You like how women were empowered and written for on DS9. These are all things and characteristics and attributes that I see reflected in who you are. And I'm glad to see it all working together in such a beautiful way. I feel like I'm so proud of you, but
thank you, my friend. Thank you.
But it's like, I'm so glad the world gets to experience who you are and gets to see the breadth of your work. And I think that's really on full display in this episode because it shows how you're thinking about all of these things while giving us a new character and giving us new characters and in-depth background onto Sam, who Carice Brooks does a great job of.
She's incredible.
So yes, I wanted to compliment you on that. I mean, that complexity you speak about is exactly what I see. And you mentioned family, and I wanted to give you just a brief second because I know your personal relationship with your father and things that have meant to you. And did that also kind of make you look at the Sisko relationship differently?
Yeah, it really did. Sorry. I lost my father on April 13th, 2024. And weirdly, that was the same day Lower Decks got canceled. It was so strange. But he'd been sick for a really long time. He was kind of a medical miracle when it came to lung cancer. And my incredible co-writer and I, Kirsten Beyer, were working on this episode kind of during the last Christmas that I had with my dad. And she and I were trading pages back and forth, literally working through the holiday. And I drew a little bit of a boundary. And I think I maybe knew it was his last Christmas. And I didn't want to put more pressure on her, but I kind of said, like, I'm not going to take time away from my family. This episode is important to me, but, I'll come back to it after the new year. And she was wonderful and picked up slack in that place. But then when I came back to it in the new year, I literally it felt like I was writing it for my dad. I wanted to make sure he got a chance to read it before he passed. I kind of knew he wasn't going to be able to see it. And I did slip him the script, and he did read about 2 pages, and he went, "Why is this so long?" But yeah, there was a lot tangled up in writing this. I think knowing that my relationship with my dad was informing it, and also that my relationship with his physical form was coming to an end, which is just so, there's just so many parallels. I'm not making a ton of sense right now, but it definitely was informed by my relationship with my very tough, funny, cool, weird black dad, who reminded me so much of Ben Sisko.
Wow. I don't know how much common knowledge that was, but I certainly didn't know about it. So I don't think most fans know about this.
Yeah, I don't know either. I was actually when my dad passed, I was at Gates McFadden's house in France, and I got a message from him that seemed weird, and I just kind of shot straight up in bed, and I was like, I have to go home. And the next day I was on a train and on a plane trying to get back to him. But it was just the synchronicity of my dad and Star Trek and everything has always been very odd. He's been very much a part of this journey.
Was he a fan of Deep Space Nine?
Oh yeah. Although Discovery was his favorite Trek.
Really?
Yeah, it was actually one of the last things he watched before he passed. My stepmom told me he just loved Michael and Book. He loved their relationship. And I think he just loved that Disco brought Trek back. He was one of the first people that called me and was like, Star Trek's back in 2015 or 16 or whenever it was. He was a big Trek fan. He watched it all.
Wow. That's beautiful, because that's how, this story to me feels like me saying I love you to Avery. And this was like, I wanted to make sure that I got a chance to say that in this performance. And that's why it was so nerve-wracking for me. And that's why I was like not eating and just like locked in and saying, I have to get this right. I have to get this right. I mean, I rehearsed my scenes, I would say 1,000 times. Just
oh my God, Cirroc, you freaking nailed them. By the way,
you killed it. And can I
so
say,
good.
no, not a moment of like rustiness. Oh, he hasn't done this character in a while. I think Noga texted me because I wasn't on set your first day. I think I was flying in that day, and she texted me and she was like, Tawny, watch the dailies. Cirroc is as good, if not better, than he ever was. It's like no time has passed. She was so happy.
Oh, thank you.
And not to mention all the work you did behind the scenes that no one will ever know the full breadth of. But Cirroc deserves an executive producer credit for this episode. He moved mountains to make this happen. It was such a labor of love for all of us. But Cirroc, your relationship with Avery Brooks really made this possible. It's the only reason we could do this. So thank you for helping my story get made, because I would not have been able to write this episode if you hadn't done all that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have been able to have had the conversations that I had with him if it wasn't for this project. This project itself led to conversations that I cherish with him, because we, worked on it together. And he knew how much it meant to me. He knew how much it meant to you. And that's why he did it, to make that come true, because he knew that it was out of a place of love and out of a place of gratitude for what he means to all of us. He was like everybody's good dad. I know it's a lot of the times it gets put in a box of color, like, he's the great black dad. But really, regardless of color, it's just as a loving father who's there to be there with his family and support his family and be, both parents essentially to your child. All of that really resonates with people across the board, and they've come to me and told me throughout the years. So I was in a headspace where I got to channel all of this stuff, because I know what the fans, when I started doing the show, I didn't know the fans as well as I do now. Yeah. And because I know the fans, and because I know the property and the work and the universe, I know how much it means more to have this opportunity. So I cherish the moment that we spent together on the set doing this, because I know how important it is for the fans to see this. I know how much it can resonate and change their lives. I think one of the lines you wrote was like, you said, you had me tell Sam that she is enough,
That was all Kirsten. I can't take credit for that one.
That's and Kirsten was beautiful because it reminded me of a book, of a play that I remember studying when I was in college, and it was for colored girls who consider suicide when the rainbow is enough. And it was a beautiful story about people who face these kinds of hardships and question whether they're worthy, whether they're enough, and whether they should go on. And I believe that, those kinds of doubts creep into people on their journey, especially when the odds are against them, or they're the underdog or the underprivileged or the outcast of society per se, quote unquote. So when you wrote that for Sam, and I saw the trepidation Sam's character is going through with feeling not wanted, it reminds me of a lot of people that feel not wanted, displaced, no home for them. And I think you wrote those scenes, you and Kirsten wrote those scenes so it made sense and it felt real. So it was not just an homage to Sisko, but it was like a carrying forward for Sam's character. I love that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, the voice of the writer room, because Ryan and I are watching this show and we're laughing and we're making these comments. These jokes that are coming in, are they all yours? Or
so often we go, that's got to be a Tawny line.
Where they're like, there's moments there where we're like, that's Tawny, that's got to be a Tawny line.
I don't know anybody else that would say that.
We got bets on who's Tawny, which lines are Tawny's. Just because when we hear like perfect sarcasm and like comebacks. So tell me about the jokes in the writer room. So do you just throw that comical edge in there? Like, walk us through the writer's room a little bit, like the process of how you guys work together.
Yeah. So for season 1, what happened was I was in the room for the first half full time, and we would all break the story together. Writer pairs would then go off and refine and create outlines, bring it back to the room to bounce ideas off. And, really in that space, it wasn't so much pitching jokes, but I was trying to pitch storylines that would yield a lot of comedy. I was trying to really bake it in, because what I didn't want to do was just write a bunch of drama scripts and then just sprinkle jokes on top. I said that's kind of like putting powdered sugar on baby carrots, right? Like it'll kind of taste sweet, but like you need the dish to work together. So I was really adamant that because Alex Kurtzman really wanted a lot of humor in the show, and I was adamant that in places where it was appropriate, that had to be baked in from the beginning. So then what would happen is our writer teams would go off and write their draft. And then when the showrunners kind of do their pass of like tightening things up, adjusting anything they want, they would also include me in that round where I got to tweak, add some jokes here or there. And everything I would offer at that point were just pitches. And I was encouraged to, pitch things that might be a little too broad. And then the showrunners would kind of pull them back, or pitch things that were hyper specific, kind of insider Trekkie things. And then the showrunners would decide how deep they wanted to go. So it was all at Noga and Alex's discretion, but basically I was invited sort of to have a little like hand in every script. But I will say some of our writers did not need me at all. One writer in particular, Alex Taub, is an incredibly funny writer. He's been writing dramas, comedies. He's had a very long career. And sometimes I would get a script of his or a script of Kylie Rossiter's and just kind of be like, I can't do anything here. I don't really need to do much. They got it. It's fine.
This passes the test.
Yeah, notes.
But I think Alex really making it clear that he wanted blended tone. He wanted episodic structure so that it could handle lots of different tones. I definitely ran with that. It's what I was talking about before, the duets and the move along homes. Or maybe I should say more like the duets and the Little Green Men, because that's a more like revered episode that happens to be very funny. I think that gave the other writers also a lot of permission to play with tone and to play with, just play a little more.
So Tawny,
Cirroc, I got one last one. I'm sorry, I know we got to go.
Not at all.
One last one. I just want to give you an opportunity to talk about Kurtzman and the kind of person he is, because over the years we've interviewed people who have become directors based on Rick Berman's influence, advice. He had a whole director's camp that he would initiate people in, and we had guys like David Livingston come out of that. Jonathan Frakes came out of that. And so he gave opportunities to these guys to like go on and have other careers like directing. And we see now you've in the writer's room, and I'd like just to we've heard good things about Alex, and I'd like to know firsthand what those things are and, the kind of treatment you've been getting.
Well, as a person, I said this on the Comic-Con stage, but I think everyone should know it. As a person, what you should know about him is during the writer's strike, our support staff, no one was making any money. Our guilds were on strike, but our support staff, needed to make ends meet during that time. So he personally contributed a huge sum. The writers pooled some of their own money, but the support staff would not have been fully covered had it not been for Alex Kurtzman literally reaching into his personal pockets and covering their salary during the time that we were striking. And nobody asked him to do that. Nobody pressured him. Nobody said, hey, this would be a good look. He didn't get any press off of it. The only person that talks about it publicly is me, because I'm like that. I don't see I haven't seen a ton of other people in Hollywood that have done that for their staff. And then I will say, as an artist, he is so endlessly collaborative. The way I'm describing how he would invite me to, have a voice in the room, invite everyone. He's that way with everyone. There's no one who can't raise a hand and say, hey, I actually think it should be like this. It's very it's just an incredibly collaborative and egalitarian kind of process. It's sort of deceptive because he often doesn't feel like your boss. He just kind of feels like your buddy who you're doing bits with over text. And then the next thing you know, things that you've said are ending up in his script, and you're like, oh, cool. Thanks for considering my silly idea. So yeah, he's really unique in that way.
Yeah, in my personal experience, I did do an ADR session for this episode. And when I went into the ADR, they said, Mr. Kurtzman is here. And he was there on the FaceTime and walked me through the session. And I thought that was really first class of him. He didn't have to be there. He didn't have to do that, but he was there. And the personal touch made me feel really welcomed and appreciated. And that's how I can attest to the kind of person he is.
He and Noga both have dedicated a gargantuan number of hours to this show. They have both personally just really put themselves into this show in a way that's really impressive.
Really shows.
You did a fantastic job. We didn't even get a chance to talk about Dax and all this other stuff. We have to bring you back on, I guess, at some other point to talk about all this stuff. Maybe for the season ending wrap up.
I'll come back whenever you want. We got so much to talk about.
Yeah, and just real quick, Cirroc mentioned Dax. I've been dying to mention Dax. Please don't think you're going to get away without us talking about your acting. And we're not talking about just voiceover acting, bringing life to animated things, but you were actually there in the flesh and in the plastic or whatever, silicone, which was probably hot and uncomfortable. But you also nailed it, Tawny. Please don't think that we're only noticing your writing skills right now. We're also very happy and appreciative and grateful for you lending your acting ability into a completely new and different character that acted totally different than Beckett Mariner, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really wanted to honor Terry Farrell and Nicole DeBoer. I really wanted to give them a little bit of nod and flowers just in some of my mannerisms in crafting Professor Isla. It was such a great honor to get to play her. Kirsten, it was not the plan at first. Kirsten and I designed this character, and then I was the last piece of the puzzle to come in. And when it was decided that I would play the part, I was kind of like, okay, I hope I'm up to this. So thank you for your kind words. Prosthetics are hell. Doug Jones, Michael Dorn, they are superheroes. Our own Karim Diané. I cannot believe they go through that every day. It tested me.
Thank you so much, Tawny, for being here and talking
guys.
about this journey.
You're the best.
Really appreciate you. I love you.
I appreciate and love you, my friend. You did so much more than anyone will ever know. And
we're going to find
bring
out.
You back. Yeah. Just keep, every now and then, Ryan, every other day, just ask him one little question about the process.
Starting in the next segment, I'm going to be grilling him. No, but really, Tawny, before you go, again, thank you from the fans, because you did say, that you were happy that your script came out and your story came out and then Cirroc did your story. But it doesn't feel like that's what it was. It feels like this was our story. It feels like you spoke for the fans. That much is abundantly clear. This was as if the fans as a whole came together and wrote an episode. They wouldn't have been able to make it as funny as you did. You did that. But this was the heart of what they wanted. And I guarantee you're going to hear that over and over and over and over again. And people are going to be hugging you guys nonstop and just crying and thanking you. And it's so well deserved. So thank you once again, Tawny.
Well, thank you. And I'll just quickly say, the fans did all write this, because why else am I at a signing table every, a couple weekends a month, hearing from everybody about what they want, what they hope for, and what they miss about the franchise, if I'm not going to be able to use those things to give them a little bit of that? That's such an honor that I got to do that. So thank you for saying it. I hope to continue.
Awesome.
We love you.
Cool.
You did A+. Best episode of the season so far, for sure.
All right, I'll take your word for it. Thank you. We gotta wait though. There's a lot more coming.
I know. We got some more coming. Can't wait.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Guys, thank you.
Stick around. We got a lot more coverage of this awesome episode, and we will be right back on the 7th Rule. Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
You know him as Jake Sisko, in Deep Space Nine and Starfleet Academy. All right, here are the Trivioids of the episode. In the last 1,000 years, the Federation has encountered 4,633 sentient species and over 37 trillion individuals. Sam was created 217 days ago. Darum Raimi hates bananas. Kionians vomit glitter. Occam's tragic flaw is that he's a joiner. The Sisko Museum is in New Orleans. The Chancellor of Alpharat needs the ocean for her fleet of fire eels. Captain Ake is tired of being enemies with the War College. To tomato or not to tomatoes, tomato is a hot button issue in gumbo circles. I should use that at the top. That was the one I wanted. I forgot. Yeah. Kelric possesses a biting wit. Jaden has a capable bearing. That's another good one. Sometimes lose-lose is actually win-win. All right, Cirroc. Now that it's just you and me, I can speak candidly, and I can just say, dude, bro, you fucking did it, man. This is so cool. This is something that has been decades in the waiting. It's just been, and we've been talking about it. The fans have been talking about it. Everybody, you and I have been talking about it. I knew personally it was only a matter of time before Jake Sisko, when people started seeing like actors returning in Picard and voiceover actors returning in Lower Decks and the Starfleet Academy coming, I was like, at some point, it's going to click that people need the son of the emissary. And I was hoping to have a little bit more time with Tawny, but this has probably been asked before because, you guys are doing all the press. I kind of wanted to know what the process was in coming up with the idea for the script and how it kind of moved and how they kind of spoke to you and said, oh my God, Cirroc's in, let's do this, green team, go, let's go. But for your part, can you tell us, was it a big shock when you got the question, when, what did it feel like? How'd it go?
I think it started with like just a conversation with Tawny, like we went to lunch and just had like a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea started right there. That's when the first seed was planted. And I thought to myself, could this really be done? Like, for me, I always thought there was this invisible block somewhere in the hierarchy of the Hollywood or the business that was not allowing them to even touch the subject matter, because it felt like they were avoiding it to some degree. They would talk about this, they would talk about that, but they wouldn't talk about Captain Sisko.
There was a glaring omission. Yeah.
It was a glaring omission, and it felt like it was purposeful to some degree, because I was like, are they avoiding this? They don't want to talk about this, and it felt to some degree that, all of the tropes of what could be were playing out. And, and so I kind of lost hope on the whole thing, to be honest with you. Because I felt like, oh, there must be something there that's obstructing this from happening, because it feels like it's being avoided. And so when the first idea happened and Tawny started to suggest, well, could be a possibility, I was like, are you sure this is possible? Like they're okay with doing this, this has gone all the way up to the top, you think? Like this would be possible? And that's when we started to question that. I mean, my questions were answered, which is, yes, they are serious. It is possible, and it will be done in such a way that pays respect to Mr. Brooks and his amazing accomplishments on this show. So once that was confirmed for me, then I was able to say, okay, this is coming from a good place. It's Tawny is attached to it, who I know is genuine and is telling me her personal feelings and story about her life and what DS9 means to her and how she wants this episode to play out. And I was like, sure, sign me up for the journey. I need to, make sure I get Mr. Brooks' blessing before I even sign up on it, because I'm not going to do anything that would upset him or, destabilize what we'd already done or undermine what we'd already done. It had to be a continuation and honorable, kind of respectful homage. And so once that was established, I was on board 100%. And to see things that come to life and be on the set was like, wow, this is really.
What was happening. The set like? I'm totally fanboying right now too. I'm like, oh my God, tell me about the set, bro.
The set was amazing. I mean, it was huge. It felt like as big. I don't know if it is, but it felt as big as the promenade. That whole atrium area where the cherry blossom tree is and the VR wall is. It's multiple stories. So just like the promenade, it has 2 stories to it. This is multiple stories, so you can be on several levels. And it's very brand new looking and very futuristic looking. And
it looks sleek on the screen.
It's sleek, it's clean, it's glossy where it needs to be glossy. It's just pristine, and that was a beautiful thing. And then they also had the museum set, which they dressed with a whole homage to Sisko. When I was walking through the museum, there was an ancestry line of, the Sisko who played baseball, the Sisko who was a judge, and, the Sisko who did this, and it was like a Sisko family tree. And then they had the artifacts in there with the baseball glove and the baseball and the baseball card.
Yeah, I saw that.
They had typewriter, the Benny Russell typewriter. They had a whole bunch of things in there that I just thought was fantastic, and it looks so beautiful. It's so real. I mean, the details were amazing. You could read the things up close, and it made all of it was like,
yeah, the attention to detail must have really put you there. Must have really put you, like, it must have really kind of upped the ante. Like, as an actor, you can put yourself there. But if on top of that, you know, you're an alien, you've got amazing alien makeup, it can add an extra level to your performance and your feeling. Same thing with this. When you're there and you're looking and you're touching, you're feeling all this, it must have really kind of pushed it through for you.
It did. And, you know, everybody was so welcoming. And, you know, part of the process, the creative process was creating the look for what Jake would look like. So we agreed on like a Bajoran earring because, you know, maybe he would have, you know, decided to get into Bajoran studies and pay homage to who his father has now become this big, you know, icon. And so I believe that he would have adapted some of that into his persona. And we incorporated the Bajoran earring. We also had the clothing that I was wearing that was made out of Ethiopian fabric that I had brought back from my last trip to Ethiopia. And I, you know, was talking with the costume department about how we can turn these patterns and prints into a futuristic Star Trek costume.
That's incredible.
And they did. And they had the, you know, we had the sachet, the collared shirt. It was just really fantastic. You know, the whole process was like magical. And going through it, like I said, knowing how much it means to myself, to, you know, to pay honor to Avery, and also to the fans who were dying to see some kind of closure and some kind of continuation to what Jake and his dad went through after, you know, the last episode. So this gave some kind of closure to those fans who wanted to know,
wow,
you know, what happened to Sisko.
So wait, so when Tawny was saying you moved mountains, which I wanted to ask you about, I did not know she meant Ras Dashen, the highest peak in actual Ethiopia that you were moving. Was that good knowledge? I feel like that was good knowledge for a second.
That's very good knowledge.
Thank you very much. I don't know if I pronounced it right, but
it's pretty good.
Thank you. So, but I did want to ask you, she did say repeatedly that you moved mountains. Bringing fabrics all the way from Ethiopia with information about it is pretty authentic and cool. And I got a high regard for you, Cirroc, but even I was like, whoa, that's pretty bad. Like that even surprised me a little bit too. But besides that, is there anything that you can tell us that you added or brought or did for this production?
Yeah, well, I did. You know, I did a little bit of research, and I had an Avery Brooks CD that he had, which came out. I don't even know when it came out, but I had a copy of his CD. It was called Here, and it's a jazz composition, and it's got different works on it. And I wanted Avery to be part of this project to some degree. And I had the idea of maybe using a snippet from that CD as an outro, or using his voice from it as a sample.
So that's where that came from.
So yes, that last closing line is not a reuse from an episode that existed in the past. It is from his music CD, which I'm sure some people have, because I remember him having them at one point. But if you listen to that, you'll find the original audio from where that it's sampled from.
Wow, that is so cool. By the way, the best moment in a lot of ways, and again, I keep feeling like this episode was written by the fans, was at the end when it just said, "Thank you, Avery." That actually hit me harder than anything else, because I was like, that's exactly the point of this episode. That's what this episode means. This episode is thank you, Avery. But Cirroc, your acting, by the way, was A+. Nobody's surprised by it, but we saw who you are now through your acting, which is a very different person than who you were then. Obviously, that nugget of that person is still there. We all know you're the same guy you were. But now you're a very, mature, seasoned, caring, empathetic, and open-minded, thoughtful adult now. And a lot of people may not know that because they're just watching you as a 17-year-old, or they see you up on stage for a few minutes answering what was your favorite episode. But this came through in your performance for the world to see the kind of amazing person that you are today. And I just want to say congratulations that you were able to convey that. Congratulations that you were given a role that opened the forum for you to perform that. Your soul showed in this episode. And that is such a gift, I think, to you. And it's a gift from you to the fans. Congratulations. Best thing I've seen in a long, long time, man.
Ryan, I appreciate you. And again, this came out of a place of love. During my conversations with Mr. Brooks, I remember him saying at one point, I asked him, I said, what are you thinking about when you're acting sometimes? What do you channel? And his answer was my father. Gentlemen. That's where he gets his voice from. That's where he gets his looks from. That's where his fiber is. And this was an opportunity for me to channel my father, Mr. Avery Brooks, my on-screen father, and channel the love and energy he's put into me to become the man that I am. And so that is a reflection of, the guidance that he's given me all of these years. So, and then the other thing is to pay it forward to the next generation and inspire them to be the best version of themselves, to give them hope that they can do what they dream of doing, and also to let them know that they're not less than anybody. That they are confident, they are equal, and they're capable. And so I think all of those things come true. We all have doubts and hesitation. Jake had his own hesitations about his path in life, not following Starfleet and going into writing. We get to see some of the fruits of that when they refer to his book. We get to see some of the fruits of that when they talk about him going on to live an abundant and successful life. So, I'm grateful for being able to tell those kinds of stories and also uplift future generation of brown and black kids who may feel less than, so that they can feel worthy and live out their dreams.
Were there any moments when you were acting it out that you thought, ooh, yeah, that was good. I like that. Where it felt good, it felt right, or do you just never know until you watch yourself? It seemed like you were wearing it well, and you were very comfortable and practiced in your role, and you put some Cirroc into Jake Sisko. But were there any moments that you felt like you nailed it?
There were moments that I felt Carrie Brooks nailed it.
She did.
Because I was in the scene as opposite her, and I got to see those performances firsthand. So, yeah, that's who I thought nailed it. And, I was doing my best to compliment her in this journey, to be there, a voice for her in this moment, and also be an advocate for Mr. Brooks and the legacy that he's left behind for us to observe for perpetuity. And that is a high level of standard, of class, of education, of sophistication, and of brilliance that, we have not seen paralleled by anyone else, in my opinion. So, this was that opportunity. For me, the best thing about it was I was speaking from the heart. So I didn't really feel like I had to nail it. because this was true to me, and I wanted it to, feel true, be true. It was true.
Yep.
There's nothing in there that I didn't say that I didn't feel true. In one of the lines I say, he was always there. I can't prove it, but I know he was, and that's what my message is to the audience about Avery Brooks and Cirroc Lofton. That is, Avery Brooks has always been there for Cirroc Lofton, and so when you see it play out on screen between Jake and Benjamin, it's the same level of being there in love. So yeah, that's what I try to channel in this. I hope it came through. I hope he loves it when he sees it.
I was going to ask you, I hope he sees it.
Yeah, and I hope he sees it. I hope he loves it when he sees it. And again, it's just an homage because I felt like they've been avoiding even talking about Sisko.
And yeah, there are a lot of mentions of Kirk. A lot of mentions of Kirk. So, also, Cirroc, I did want to tell you, because ever since they announced Starfleet Academy, and I know I mentioned to you that, like, I kept thinking at some point, Cirroc's going to get the call. It's going to happen. He's out there. He's got a freaking Star Trek podcast, for God's sakes. He's not 75 years old like all the other Star Trek actors. No shade. I'm just saying, like, you're right here. You're the son of the emissary. You're a direct link to Avery Brooks. It's going to happen. It's something, or they're just crazy. But what I thought was Starfleet Academy is a perfect avenue for like holographic teachers or professors. And I don't necessarily mean like Bob Picardo's character, who's brilliant. I just meant like, I just imagine like, hello, students. I'm Cirroc Lofton. I was born in 2371. I lived until 2464, and I will be your teacher on literature this week, blah, blah, or something like that. And that way they could just have guest actors every step of the way, and they could be recurring, they could be whatever. This is obviously much better thought out and much more, to the heart. But what this role does leave, and I didn't want to ask Tawny this because she probably can't say anything, obviously, but you can come back in season 2 or season 5. I mean, there's nothing that you can come back. This is always a possibility, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, the door is open just because the idea has been let out. And if they were to do something, I would have a whole bunch of suggestions, based on what I've already seen. Mm-hmm. Let me put out a rumor that I have no idea if it's true. That's why I can say this. Yeah. But it would be cool to see Terry Farrell a Dax episode where Dax meets the new Dax and talks about being a Dax and a symbiont and learns from her own symbiont. So there's ways to incorporate that if you really wanted to. But ultimately, for me, Avery Brooks was the star of the show. He was the captain on our ship. All the other captains are put on the, on a pedestal of respect that they deserve because they were the lead on the shows. And I feel like Mr. Brooks is right there with all of the other legends that have starred in these shows. And in my estimation, my favorite, obviously, but still, the reverence and respect should be there at the level of Kirk, at the level of Picard. It should be up there at those levels.
Yeah, and it's nice to hear you say that Sisko is your favorite captain, because for a long time it was Captain Jellicoe, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, yeah,
he was your guy.
My guy Jellicoe. Yeah.
Okay, well, we gotta close this out soon, but obviously there's a lot more to discuss about this episode in general. But how many times do we get to talk about an episode, a brand new episode that you are in?
I know.
This is just
crazy.
The coolest thing in the world. As your friend, I'm so happy for this, and I'm so proud of you. And I was like so pleased with what they did with the role, and I was so pleased with what you did. I'm like, thank God, that was like so good. And dude, you think you get a lot of hugs and compliments at conventions now? People are just, strangers are going to walk up to you and they're just going to want to hug you. You're now like the space daddy. Like before you were the space kid and Avery you're now like the space. You're going to have a whole generation of people wanting to give you a hug. And I know you're going to be here for it. So I'm like super excited to see it.
Yeah, I've been studying under Doug Jones. So
good luck.
Getting my hugs up.
All right. Well, any final thoughts on this episode before I...
Yeah, I had great times with amazing communication with Noga Landau, and I thought the fantastic treatment. I mentioned earlier Alex Kurtzman being there, and really communicating well with me throughout the process, and including being there for the ADR session. Also, Kirsten Beyer was great, and Tawny was on set with me while we were doing those scenes. And so having her there, talking with me right before the performance meant everything to me. And also Larry Tang, shout out to Larry Tang. He was phenomenal, LA guy, young, quick, and knew what he wanted, and really was great at setting the tone and moving the pace and putting everybody in the right frame of mind. So Larry Tang, and just to see the multiculturalism at work, just to see the level of professionalism, just to see the level of treatment that I got as a guy coming back to the Star Trek world. They gave me a OG status, welcome home, and I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart to everybody at Paramount and Star Trek. So thank you, guys.
So glad that they treated you that way, man. You weren't just like the new kids showing up. That's cool.
Yeah, it's great.
All right.
And thank you again to Tawny. She really made all of this happen. She was the number one propelling force, beginning to end. And she was like, I'm going to make sure I put a protective force field around your scenes. And, we're going to make sure it's done the way we've discussed. So she did that and honored her word as well. I appreciate that.
I could totally see that about her. She was like, over my dead body, guys. You do whatever you want with that flute and fish stuff, but don't you touch my Sisko. Love it.
Yes, thank you.
All right. And here are some other people that love flutes and fish. Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman, Tom, TJ Jackson Bay out in Missouri, Titus Moeller, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manasfi, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Cassandra G., Mark Zutkoff, Chris Garris, Linda Pages, Steve Case, Stephen Monk, Jonathan Capps, and of course, Jason M. Oken, who will definitely watch this episode once he hears about it. All right. That's it for us, everybody. Thank you so much. Keep the conversation going in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts on this episode, on Cirroc's performance, on Jake Sisko, on the story, maybe questions for Cirroc that he can answer later. Just, I feel like as far as this podcast is concerned, this episode is for you guys. You guys have been with us for 7 years plus. You've been clamoring, saying, "When's Jake Sisko coming back?"
And also, let me thank one other person.
I don't know. I don't know.
Let me thank one other person too, because Aaron, the late great Aaron Eisenberg, who started this podcast and got us to this point, helped us get to this point, including you, Ryan, and Elisa. The seventh rule is also a reason why this happened. because of the work we put in on the podcast. I think it was one of the stepping stones for this thing to manifest. And so I'm grateful for this journey that I've taken with you guys too. So all of you out there, Seventh Rule listeners, it wouldn't have been possible without you. So thank you.
We're all Team Cirroc, man, all the way. We're your biggest fans. That's the truth. Is that weird? Is it weird that I'm your biggest fan? I'm like your podcast.
No,
and I am. I totally am. And everybody right now, they're like, no. Weird. They're like, no, I'm his biggest fan. You shut up right now. Okay, but anyway, no, very good. Great stuff. Thank you so much, Cirroc. All right, everybody at home, thank you very much for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time. And until then, always remember the seventh rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Eat.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the seventh rule with the son of the emissary, Cirroc Lofton, and the star of the show. This is the free-for-all with Melissa Longo. She's leading the Benjamin Sisko parade with Cassandra G. Stephanie Baker as well has one. So does Allison Leach Hyde. Mike Goo is here. Eve England stayed up late out in Wales. Faith Howell is here. She's cool. TJ Jackson Bay is proud. Dr. Susan B. Gruner might cry. Anil
what a surprise.
Is here somewhere around the world. Mark Zutkoff, cool background. Carrie Schwent, this is one of the greatest moments of her life, just like me. Chris Garris is here out in Southeast Texas. And the Matt Boardman, cool hat. I wasn't lying. This is like the greatest moment of my life, Cirroc. We're all living vicariously through you. We know what the NAMs were. Melissa Longo, will you please get us started off on the right track by telling us, did you like this episode?
Okay, I'm going to try and get through my turn without crying because I've watched this twice. I always watch the episodes twice, and both times, like The Visitor, I got a lot of Visitor vibes in this episode. I was bawling my eyes out, especially when Sam starts to go into the Sisko Museum, and then, I'm just starting to get a little misty, but then when Jake starts talking about his father, I'm just like, I can't. It was so beautiful. And then Jake's scene with Sam was so beautiful too. Sorry. I'm so proud of you, Cirroc. And it was just so beautiful. And I can't finish my turn because I'm a mess. But I love you. I loved your performance. Okay, I got it. The wisdom and serenity that Jake had, that he was giving to Sam, was just so beautiful and so moving. It made the entire episode for me. And then to have Benjamin Sisko's voice as a button to have the last word in the episode was just so incredible too. And there's so many flowers that I want to give out to everyone who was part of this show. Sam, I thought she did great. Tawny Newsome, fantastic. And I love that there's a possibility that Dax will be have a bigger role throughout Starfleet Academy. But Cirroc, you're amazing. Love you, love you, love you. And I'm sure that Avery and Aaron and everyone be proud. And I hope that we get to see more of you on screen. That would be incredible.
Okay.
No reason why we can't. Thank you very much, Melissa Longo. I was like, that could be recurring, right? By the way, Cirroc, I forgot to tell you, I've been sitting on this forever. In honor of your special day, I got your favorite goodies right here.
There you go.
And I'm going to try them for they're not for you, I'm sorry, but they're for me to try them for the very first time.
Great. I would love to see you snacking on that.
I can't wait. Well, Cassandra G tells us what she thought of this episode.
Oh, Melissa, why did you start?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. No. I became a young girl again. It was so beautiful, awe-inspiring. I will try to stick to all the reasons I love it. Besides the obvious, I love that juju sticks were a thing at the beginning. The coyotes vomit glitter. That's funny. I love that they gave a nice backstory about Benjamin Sisko for people who are fairly new to Star Trek, perhaps haven't seen Deep Space Nine, or maybe a nice refresher course. So I love that they did that. I want to hear more about this Alpharet new species. They seem interesting. And I like that there's some new camaraderie going on between the instructors. Calric smiled and laughed for once. Yeah, so that was nice. I did pause, and I was nosy, and I wanted to look at the lineage screen, and I saw Nichelle Sisko, Sonequa Sisko, Dikembe Sisko, and Jake got busy. He got married and had Dominic and Kira, who then went on to have Rashawn and Najwa. So that was nice. Speaking about his father and not as an emissary was phenomenal. The Wall of Remembrance was not updated, but we've now seen more of it. A lot of TOS, TNG, and a few others that we hadn't seen before. I did have a question about how Sam knew about the riots. Even Bella questioned her. She's like, they had riots? Because I thought there was something about, okay. That's maybe for things to talk about after. The gray scarf that was on Sam when they were trying on different hairstyles and everything, it was very reminiscent of the first episode of Discovery where Burnham and Giorgio had that big gray scarf. So I thought that was kind of a nice throwback to that. I like that graffiti is still a thing. Where they were out in the alleyway, I'm like, oh, they still have graffiti this day and age. So Darren definitely has been jealous of Jaden and the War College students, so we'll see what goes on with that triangle. I loved when Jake said, "Hey, sis," he turned around. That was so, I don't know why I just got goosebumps. It was so beautiful. I'm not sure if it was even written in or it was just natural, but yeah, I loved it. And when he told, I think, oh, don't do it. When he said, "You are enough," and he never really left us. That. Mm-hmm. And of course, at the end, Dax, and like once again, her outro and hearing Avery's voice and talk about giving him his flowers. He deserved it. And so that was the whole team, the cast, the writers delivered. So, well, I'll just end it with thank you, Avery.
Just like the episode. Thank you very much, Cassandra G. Cirroc, these are delicious. Oh my God. Mike Goo, you are also delicious. What do you think of this episode?
I've never seen those chips. I need to get some.
They're so good. You're so right.
Special song. Just a couple things that Cassandra already kind of mentioned. I really like that Elric laugh and that melting a little bit of that tension that's kind of been there for these past 5 episodes now. I think he snorted a little bit when he laughed. It was adorable. And then Cirroc's lines, about his father and then fathering children. I've heard you say it many times, of course, but to have those lines, be there in the episode and feature prominently, I'm glad that you had that moment, and I'm glad it's now drying. So that episode. But yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. And good to see you again, Mike Goo. Dr. Stephanie Baker, Rad Shirt, what'd you think of this one?
Well, I'm sick and was not quite paying attention to most of it until I heard Tawny's voice. And I was like, wait, I hear Tawny because I've been doing a rewatch of Lower Decks with my young adult daughter. I was just watching that before watching this, and I was like, where's Tawny? And it took me a moment to understand that must have been her, and I was like, that's amazing. And then on top of that, when Cirroc showed up, I did start crying, and I felt like Jake was giving me Sisko, like the Sisko vibes as well, like as if it was reincarnating Sisko in a way, and it was really nice. I do. I wish that Sam and the Doctor would have a little more discussion about both being photonics, and I'm hoping to see more of that instead of them doing their own separate arcs. But we'll see, and that's about it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stephanie Baker. All right, Eve England stayed up way late. She's like, I got to do it. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, and I'll leave all the sort of stuff that I'll echo everything that everyone else has said and all the slushy stuff before I actually cry myself. But yeah, I think for me, yeah, there's probably enough tears from everyone else. But it was amazing. I just loved how it wasn't just a callback for a callback's sake, which sometimes we obviously see when we have these callbacks. It was just such a beautiful homage to Deep Space Nine, you know, the best Star Trek show. And I just loved how the episode at its heart was just a story. We had that gorgeous child picture book at the start, which set it all up. And then we ended it with this beautifully narrated sort of poetic coda. It was just so beautifully packaged. And I just, taking aside, I wish they hadn't had the extra stuff that the plot be. I think it could have just lived without that, actually. But I loved how they didn't. So I was really worried they were going to try and solve the puzzle and actually ruin the ending of Deep Space Nine. So I was really pleased they didn't do that. And I just loved it how the way Sam, I think she said that quote, she said, you know, it's not about the understanding, it's about the becoming. And this episode to me was all about that sort of becoming message, where capturing really that essence of Deep Space Nine from how I remember it, and all that fondness you have of watching those characters develop and grow over those 7 years. And I just felt that this episode really sort of had that. And then things as you said, Cassandra and Stephanie, then at the end, that sort of piece where we almost see the whole story come full circle, where it was really great to see that Jake was not too melancholic about everything, and he'd found this joy and this peace with his life, and we didn't end up with this horrible visitor sort of ending. And then how he, like you said, becomes almost like Sisko at the end by how he steps into the shoes of his father in terms of being that mentor for Sam and giving her what she really just needed to allow her to start her journey and find her place in the world. And I just thought it's just so reminiscent of all those amazing pep talks that they had over their sort of family dinners. And I just absolutely loved how they sort of tied that all together at the end. So yeah, like to me, I'd prefer they cut out that sort of the sort of dinner stuff with the commander and the chancellor. But apart from that, the main aspect of the story was just absolutely beautiful. And Cirroc, it was just so wonderful to see you on the screen. Although I have to say, I almost didn't recognize you without your baseball cap. So it's nice. That was sort of a bit of a shock. But yeah, having seen you with your own new style and just taking that sort of role was just an amazing experience.
All right. Thank you very much, Eve England out in Wales. I have so many questions about the baseball cap thing, but we got to keep it moving. Allison Leach Hyde, also wearing an emissary shirt in a cool green color that Cirroc loves. What do you think of this one?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say anything that anyone else is going to be surprised about. There was a certain point where I whooped out loud while in bed because Cirroc was standing on screen in front of me, and I was super excited, and in a gorgeous blue costume. Blue is a wonderful color on you, and I thought it was great. Sam is my favorite character in this show, because she is full of joy for just being alive. But also that joy doesn't tamper the fact that she's confused about who she is, where she's going, and the pressure she's under. And the fact that she gravitates to our favorite captain because he too had to find out who he was in a bigger stage than the average person or individual. And so she just gloms on like, he's an emissary too, and seeing herself in him and that whole journey she goes through is beautiful and so well done. And I love that she went to her friends with food, because food is such part of, well, Sisko's culture, but also human culture. Individuals who, that's how we keep ourselves going. And we put so much love into it. And we had 7 years of watching Sisko put love into food to feed to the people he cares about. And that she did that as a photonic was so cool. I thought that was a wonderful way to like bring that experience of solidness that she doesn't quite have being photonic. And beautiful. I agree with the whole bit of when Dax, bites into the tomato, that's just wrong. I did. I loved that. I thought it was great. I'm like, yeah, it's not an apple. Loved Tawny as Dax. Loved that she is part Cardassian. I thought that was a cool touch. And I bawled when you held her hand in that scene with Anselm. I'm still bawling about it. Like, I'll just start thinking about it and bawling. Like, today has been a day of crying, which is awesome. And the thank you, Avery, at the end makes it so I can't talk anymore. So loved the episode, Cirroc. You were wonderful. We want more of you. And thank you so much. This was a beautiful episode.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Allison Leach Hyde. All right, Faith, your turn. What did you think of this particular episode?
I thought this was the most beautiful homage. You go in, you have ideas that there's going to be some stuff in there that is for you specifically. And, you try not to have expectations, but it's hard not to. I also, like Eve said, was a little bit worried about messing it up by adding to the story. But I think this was the most perfect way they could have done it. I love how it doesn't change our history, but adds a beautiful layer to it. I really appreciated, Cirroc, seeing you here on screen like we do. I didn't realize how closely you could match Avery's profile, especially from behind. I thought that was incredible how much you looked like him in that scene. And I also, as Allison just said, I locked on to Sam in episode 1. Like, first time she's on screen, I was transfixed, and I have been following her in every episode. I hope to one day get to meet this wonderful actress, because she's just incredible. And literally, I describe her somewhat as a pun as joy and light, because she is. And I just getting to see her advance our story, that they gave this story to that character of all of our choices here, really, I think, meant a lot to me. And none of these other guys ever have a chance of displacing her at this point as my favorite. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. And I think, Cirroc, you didn't make me cry, a little misty, but mostly it was like, oh my God, Cirroc. But definitely Avery's voiceover at the end, the fact that they did reach out to him and that he said yes to us, it was incredible, and the best gift we could have been given in this episode. So thank you to everyone who had a hand in it.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Faith Howell. All right, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, did you enjoy this episode?
I'm trying. I wasn't going to watch it at all this episode. And then I saw something on Meta and I thought, maybe I do need to watch it. So I did. And I just lost it. I was so happy to see you, Cirroc. All I could think of was, damn, you can keep a secret. And you belong there. You were everything to me to see you there. And I thought, those bastards, I need to bring him back full time. I texted him and told him, we need the band back together again, or at least who can be there. I enjoyed it so much. I ugly cried. I texted Eve. I called Dave Gregory. We sobbed together over the phone. And of course, at the end, I was ugly crying, and I'm trying really hard not to cry. Thank you, Cirroc. Thanks for keeping this secret. And it was unbelievable to see you there again. And I can't even remember the rest of what happened in the episode. I don't even care. I only care that you were there. That was everything. You made my year. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Susan V. Gruner. Faith Howell says she's self-medicating today with root beer. Freaking awesome. Anil O. Palat is somewhere in the world, and none of us probably knows exactly where, except for him. What'd you think of this one?
That's a good point that you make, because it kind of ties into what I was thinking about this episode. Just a couple of quick things. I don't know if it was just me, but I noticed that there was an "It's real and I can live with it" 2 lines in there. I think definitely little Easter eggs for those of us who are Deep Space Nine fans. I love stories that don't have like everything spelled out. I don't like finales of shows where everything is spelled out. I like open endings because we get to make the ending ourselves. We get to kind of fill in the blanks. And I think that was really a point of this episode, was the Sisko is more of an idea. So in my head, the reason they didn't show his face is because it's more about the person. It's more about the idea than the actual person. And I think even Avery Brooks stepping back from kind of, the spotlight, I think that adds to it as well. So what I took away from the episode is the Sisko is what you want it to be. And I think we're all being touched by this episode because it ties to Deep Space Nine in different ways for all of us. And I think it's really a really, really beautiful way to put it all together in this episode. So I really, really enjoyed it. And I think there were a couple of inconsistencies in the episode. And I think it's there was kind of like a mystical quality. I think those things were put in there. Like I saw, the typewriter from Far Beyond the Stars, and I was like, and I think that's the reason. And I think Tawny's performance also added a little bit of that kind of like mystical kind of quality. It was great seeing you, Cirroc. It was like my jaw dropped. Was super excited, and it's an episode that I'm gonna have to rewatch a few times. So it was really great. So yeah, great episode, great performance.
Great recovery. Your jaw looks amazing right now. Thank you, Anil. Mark Zutkoff, you also look amazing as always. What do you think of this one?
There was too much hype for this episode ahead of time. That raised my expectations to a level that this series cannot really meet for me. I did, however, watch it twice. First time just watching, second time taking many notes. Here are a few. The overarching theme of this episode is Sisko, but the underlying theme is the question of predestination versus free will. 2 words were overused. Emissary took on a meaning for Sam that I don't think was justified, and it kept being brought up. And trust was spoken by Sam, Nala, Kelrek, and even Caleb, if I remember right. If trust was the goal, Nala should not have employed the hand fake with Kelrek. The whole Alpharati issue was played for comedy, despite being similar to the Beta Z situation in the second episode. It never pays off. We don't learn how the contact went. Only at the end of the ritual rehearsal do we hear Kelrek's real issue with Nala, so much for honesty. Kelrek remains annoying despite his supposed softening to Nala by the end. The various names for Sam from the other cadets were cute. And speaking of names, Sam's makers reminded me of Orton from Mork and Mindy. I didn't catch until the second watch that Chiwetel Ejiofor voiced the makers. Co-writer Tawny Newsome as Isla. The makeup reminded me of Varia from The Most Toys. The voice she used was too close to Mariner, giving away the actor's identity. As for the character's identity, it was a clue I missed on the first watch when she referred to Sisko as Benjamin when she described the tomato debate. We never see Sisko's face, only silhouettes. On second watch, I caught that Sisko transcended human forms, so they don't show his face to respect the prophets. Jake Sisko, magnificent performance from Cirroc Lofton, and I don't say that just because he's here. I was satisfied with his initial appearance as an interviewee, and then got even more when he appeared to Sam. Nala Ake. Holly Hunter crushed it in this episode. From her fun but engaging English accent to the way she engaged with Sam and Kelrick, Hunter was fantastic. Sam saying, "I can live with that" at the end, echoing in the pale moonlight, was the kind of nostalgic callback I like. It fit the scene, but subtly reminded us of Benjamin Sisko. I loved the Ben Sisko voiceover at the very end. I presume that was from a DS9 episode. The "thank you, Avery" concluding text was nice, although it may make some people think that Avery Brooks is no longer with us. And my home pun, was this episode a hit or emissary for me? A bit of both.
All right. Thank you very much, Mark Zutkoff. It sounds like you liked it. All right. Carrie Schwent, you are the crafty bear. What do you think of this episode? And good luck.
Yeah, thanks. But no, you weren't wrong when you in the introduction. It is a very good thing that Eric is on a business trip right now and was not home this morning when I was watching it while getting ready for work, and Jake pops up on screen. I just yelled out, I'm like, "Holy crap! What? I just kept repeating that over and over. So I was very glad Eric was not home, because I would have woken him up and spoiled it. I don't know how I'm going to keep this under my head until he gets home and we can watch it together. But yeah, love it. Sam is my favorite character also. And Faith, I am actually going to get to meet her on the cruise. I am signed up for an autograph with her. I signed up immediately after watching episode 1. I'm like, gotta do it. And yeah, having so much of her and all the DS9 stuff, I'll use my own pun. It is the best of both worlds. Yeah, love it. She is just extra adorable in this episode. I love Drunk Sam. Drunk Sam was just everything. And as TJ can attest, I can get a little bit like Drunk Sam on occasion on the cruise. TJ can attest to that. Loved all the fourth wall breaks, all the writing on the screen and everything. It was definitely giving me Ms. Marvel. If any of you have ever watched that Marvel series, there's a lot of that sort of stuff with the writing on the screen, and just that character is also adorable. The musical instrument that she was playing, I've actually seen something like it in real life. One of the openers for one of the many times I've seen AJR had an instrument very similar to that, and there were like light beams kind of coming out from it, and he was moving his hands and it sort of like she was doing, but without as much light. So it is a very cool instrument. The B story is also fun. I enjoyed all of that. When the fish deflated, I laughed out loud. It was just too funny. Oh yeah, absolutely is adorable. And I also get a little bit more of my other favorite, Jaden. He is wonderful. Like I put in the chat, when Sam gives him the food, he's like, "My mouth is on fire and I never want it to stop." Yeah. So many laugh out loud moments. And we also get him wearing what looks like a scant, and he looks fantastic in it. I loved him and the work college guy Kyle dancing at the club. I already have their couple name. They are J Dial. I think they're adorable. I kind of want more of them. I wouldn't be mad at a love triangle with the one other guy that was the teaching and breathing in the last episode, which I was also seeing sparks there, so that could potentially be fun. Definitely tell that Tawny co-wrote the episode. It had her flavor all over it, like all the improv stuff that she's done on the cruise. Yeah, I could definitely see her fingerprints all over it, and she looked fantastic with her makeup. And being the super fan that she is, of course she's gonna make herself Dax. I mean, if I was writing it, I absolutely would have too. I did do a small haiku. I'll get to that in a second. But before I do, the way Sam rewrapped the Anselm book at the end, as someone who's very particular about how I fold things, it offended me. I'm like, that was just so messy. Wrap that up properly, please. Come on. But I thought about doing a haiku, but then it occurred to me, series Acclimation Mill. You've got the 3 words and the Sam. Haikus are also 3 lines. So I decided to do a haiku that was also an acronym with the first letter of each line. So I'll throw that in here at the end. Seeking information, attempting to understand my journey, not yours.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Carrie Schwent, a.k.a. Crafty Bear, who gets applause from TJ, I think that was. Chris Garris, out in Southeast Texas. What did you think of this one?
Well, it was about midnight. I was this close to texting Allison and say, hey, it's freaking awesome. But I was going to say, every week they keep on getting better. These episodes keep on getting better. There were 6 things in the show. I was at least 6 that I was not expecting. Number 1 was our friend Cirroc Lofton down there playing Jake. Dax. And then Sam playing the theremin. And at the end, I'm almost positive she was playing the TOS theme. It sounded like it. And then, of course, hearing Avery's voiceover at the end. And, that was from his, I was talking to someone, that was from his jazz album Here, was where those the words came from. And then I had done good until the thank you came up on the screen. We'll leave it at that. And then the DS9 theme song at the end. And so, that was just, those were the 6 big key things there. And I just liked how, they kind of loosely passed the torch from, Sisko to Sam to kind of become the emissary for her people, and even kind of how they made her makers, similar to the prophets, where they would just snap her in and try to control her life like they would do Avery or Sisko the Benjamin. So they did a good job of that. And then she said, hey, I'm going to do my own thing, kind of like he did. And then when she went to the Bejor Club, that was a rough one there. But and there's some other stuff, but I'm just going to leave that for later for other reviews. The one thing I am still curious about is the Sam and the Doctor relationship. There's something with him, because when he talks about loss, and he's, it has me wondering if there's something that either happened that hurt him, or if it could be the fact that everyone that he's known has passed away, and so he's had to get used to just learning with the loss. But the final thing is, overall, great episode, and I loved all the references Jake told Sam, and to help her remind him about his dad.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Chris Garris, out in Southeast Texas. The Matt Boardman, you probably like Texas, but you don't live there. What'd you think of this one?
Yeah, I've only flown through Texas. Well, first off, I just gotta say, Cirroc freaking Lofton, everybody.
Great.
Dude, that top-notch performance. I'm hoping I can make it through this without crying, because it was a beautiful performance. It was like, we see you here in these free-for-alls, and we get to interact with you at STLV, at the conventions and everything, but to see you go up there and just like here's the moment, and you just rose to the occasion, and it was such a beautiful thing to see. And there was a measured way in which you delivered your lines. There was a way that gave me notes of wisdom, and what I particularly liked about it, the Jake at the end of Deep Space Nine and the Jake that we just saw now, there is a reflection of things that have happened in your own life, and you now as a father, now understanding, sorry, you understanding that better, because you have those personal experiences that you're drawing from. And I felt that in your performance. And I love that. I love that we got to see this version of Jake Sisko who's matured and who understands now, having had to grow up, not understanding the things that were happening to his father as a spiritual icon for a people. And I just felt like this was a Jake Sisko who had embraced that and understood that. But while he had done that, he appreciated the man that was his father. And that closing monologue from Sam, I gotta say, I had the hardest time telling, was this about Jake Sisko and Benjamin Sisko, or was this about Cirroc Lofton and Avery Brooks? And that, to me, that's what made me cry, because of the stories that you have shared with us about that special relationship that the two of you have had, made that closing monologue that much more touching for me and more special. And I just thought that was absolutely amazing. And then I will say too, I just watched it a second time before we sat down here, which is why my eyes are red again. I appreciated that Tawny's love for Deep Space Nine. Throughout Deep Space Nine, we heard that the prophets would say, "We are of Bajor," and I just want to say that we are of Deep Space Nine.
Yes, sir.
Hot. Thank you very much, the Matt Boardman, always telling it well. We got a closer here. His name is TJ Jackson Bay out in Missouri, and he's got words about this episode.
All right. I got words, but words are simply not enough. I was so moved by how well this episode was written, filmed, acted, everything. Sam's story, experience, and character backstory deserves so much attention for discussion, as well as the performance of Carice Brooks. She is my emissary. But this episode did so much for my DS9 heart. It didn't just mention it, it didn't Easter egg it, and it wasn't just an homage. It did honors. When I saw Cirroc on the screen, I screamed at the top of my voice from the bottom of my lungs. When I saw Jake's interactions with Sam and how it impacted her, I laughed and I cried. And when I heard Mr. Avery Brooks' voice at the end, I was a full-on mess. I cannot give enough praise to this episode and everyone who had a part in it. I'm filled with gratitude for having had the opportunity to help produce and participate in the reviews of Deep Space Nine on this podcast founded by two cast members. And I felt so welcomed by every cast member, writer, producer, and crew member from DS9 that I've met. You have all made me feel like a part of the DS9 family. So I cannot steal the valor of having been there on Deep Space Nine's production, but I am deeply emotionally moved by how well that legacy was honored in this episode, and I'm claiming that family membership. While reviewing DS9, I remember hearing Cirroc describing what it was like for him to watch the show and see the people that he knew and was around all the time that were his friends. And so when I saw Cirroc on the screen, I felt a little bit of that in myself. And for my last take, first of all, as the episode was ending and I was that full-on mess, I mouthed the words, "I exist here," from my brain is melting and I can't think of the name of the first episode.
Emissary.
Emissary, that's it. But I want to close out in honor of Sabrina Wood with in the Sci-Fi Sisters with one of their lines, and it starts like this: "Mr. Avery Brooks, if you're watching, and we know you are, I cannot tell you how special it was to hear your voice on Star Trek again. Your relationship with Cirroc, And the Sisko father-son relationship that the two of you portrayed has meant a lot to me over the years. You will always, always be our emissary. There are times when I too sit by a window and speak to you and thank you for all that you have done for us. And as long as I draw breath, it will never be forgotten. I love you. I honor you. Thank you, Avery.
Thank you, TJ. Beautiful. All right. Jake's final take. Not final episode, though. He's coming back in season 2. I can feel it. What do you think of this episode? Any final thoughts that we haven't already covered?
I want to say, first of all, thank you, everybody, for sharing the helpful words and speaking from your heart. And you know, for me, this was about Avery, and this was a love story for him. Love letter for him. Thanking him for what he's done with me, and what do you think for starting? And thankfully, we had somebody like Tawny who made this happen. She pushed for it. She worked with me step by step to make it happen. And Avery was there, as he always is, there in the background, watching and listening and observing and really giving me his blessing to go ahead and do this. And that was a big thing for me too, because I was able to convince him that this was an accomplishment. This was going to be done out of the utmost respect and love. And I'm just grateful that I had so many great people. And Maurice Brooks was an amazing actor. The script was fantastic. The set was so beautiful. And everybody treated me so well and gave me so much respect as well. Like the legacy last me though. So I was tutored by everybody all the way down with the time out to personally talk to me or be there and serve.
We lost you, Cirroc. You're a little fuzzy and we lost you. Is there a chance you could step out for the rest of that? Just so we can catch, because what you're saying is really important.
Yeah, but I want to say...
Oh, we hear you great now. Thanks.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, guys, because I really feel like this is something that would have happened without a lot of things happening first. And the podcast is the first thing that started this journey back to Deep Space Nine, essentially. And if it wasn't for Aaron, pushing this vision, if it wasn't for all of you guys supporting this podcast, all the people that I met, so I just, really grateful that I got a chance to say what I wanted to say, and they worked closely with me to kind of filter the language and not be offensive. And it's also about the future generation and inspiring them to dream, and that's why I was grateful for that opportunity too. So I thank all of you guys, because I wouldn't have been here without you. I thank everybody that's not here with us, but is with us in spirit, like Avery and Aaron. And, this was just like a dream come true, because we knew that it would take this long to be able to have some kind of closure. And that's what this is for me. It's some kind of I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Cirroc. Thank you for over 7 years of giving us beautiful, heartfelt messages. and for being patient with the rest of the world as we all waited for them to hear those words, because we all knew who you were, and now the rest of the world finally gets a glimpse into that as well. So thank you, Cirroc, for always being just our superstar. And congratulations, and please know we're so freaking proud of you. So cool. All right. Thank you very much to TJ Jackson Bay, the Matt Boardman, Chris Garris, Carrie Schwent, Mark Zutkoff, who kind of liked the episode, Anil O. Palat, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Faith Howell, Allison Leach Hyde, Eve England out in Wales, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Mike Gu, Cassandra G, Melissa Longo, for myself, Cirroc, Melissa, Mr. Aaron Eisenberg. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us. We will see you next time. And until then, always remember the 7th rule. Wonder if he's in the next episode.